welcome to Connections for Life.
Hi.
Ted's not here, so I didn't know what to do. That's all I had.
And without further ado,
you just want to roll right into our guest?
Why not? Since we don't have the skills like Teddy does, I'm looking for my gas fact. Let's just
That's
actually
okay. Let's just catch up for a little bit here. It's been a while.
Well, yeah, it has.
It's been a while, and Teddy unfortunately couldn't make it today either. He's just got a bunch of running around, got some stuff going on. So
yeah, so we're flying solo. Just that we did the interview solo too. So don't be alarmed if you don't see the third person.
Yeah, the third person. We should try.
We should just set up a camera with like a Teddy cutout, just when he can't make it, just to have it in the corner. Like, what do you think, Ted?
Oh, I think that's great.
Yeah. Exactly. So no, I spent the weekend in Pennsylvania at two of my daughters.
In your second home, or you're going to go next weekend too?
No, I'm not going next weekend. They're going. I'm not going. Played another soccer tournament. Did well. It was a little bit wacky. We beat the number 2 team in the country, which I think that makes us the number 2 team in the country at that point. But
should.
And then we played them again back to back for the championship, and we ended up losing that game. So it's kind of weird. You win one game and then you lose the next game and they're champions. But I don't know. I don't write the rules. Whatever. We got home kind of late last night. It was a long weekend. Cal's team, my littlest team, they did the same thing, came in second place. So it was all in all, it was a good tournament. Soccer is just dominating my life. I feel like sometimes that I'm like, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to play soccer all the time, and now I feel like it's even worse now.
Oh, it's definitely, it's 2 or 3 times worse because you didn't play on some summer. Your parents weren't like, let's say we're going to hop in the car, go to Pennsylvania for a tournament.
But there wasn't
such a thing. No, it was you played city soccer and maybe a little travel. That was
right, and you played multiple sports. Like now, it's all year round. I mean, it is literally like super aggressive practice schedule, and game schedule, and it's just. And having 2 of them do it's a little rough, but all in all, I mean, it was a good weekend. She has another tournament in Pennsylvania this week, so might have to be looking at like a private helicopter or something that goes back and forth.
It's amazing.
I'm hoping the proceeds for Connections for Life helps with it.
What did I do over the weekend?
Did you vote?
No, but that's tomorrow.
Oh, look, Jason's calling me. Hi, Jason, if you watch this.
He doesn't like anyone else. I don't know. The weekend was good. They think Logan broke his wrist on Saturday. He has to get an MRI today, so that's all kinds of fun stuff. Lindsay and I go to the doctor tomorrow for the first follow-up since
but all good though, right?
Yeah, well no, we got to go for some type of, as far as we know, we got to go to some type of scan, I'm sure. Not sure yet.
They're gonna scan your brain, make sure it's still in there.
It's never been there, or it's just mush.
We knew that. We went to Indianapolis together.
Oh, we did.
We didn't talk about that, right?
Yeah, it feels like a month ago. It was last week.
I know. It wasn't even like a whole week.
No.
I know, that's what I said on Sunday. I was like, I was in Indianapolis as of Thursday. Like, I don't know what happened last week. But it was good. We met with a couple folks out there, Citizens and Centerpoint, MRC, and we had a great time with those guys. And Indianapolis is a cool city. One of my favorite restaurants is there. So Chad got to experience the shrimp.
That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
The shrimp cocktail is different level.
It is. It's really good. No one can actually believe how good it is until you actually have it. So
no, it's hard because most shrimp cocktail, you're like, they're dipped in the shrimp hang out the side and they're kind of dipped in. No, this just comes in basted in cocktails.
And it'll burn your eyeballs off. It'll get really well.
It burned your eyeballs off.
I did. I kept going back for more. I was sick for 4 days after. I think it was pretty bad, but it was well worth it. And I just wanted to say, like, the weather, dude. I don't know. The weather's been incredible.
I know. Like, I'm scared to say it. I don't like to talk about it. So
like in Pennsylvania, just during the weekend, it was like mid-70s every day.
It's like it was September.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain. Knock on wood.
It's nice here too.
It's still nice. I will say though, I had somebody come and take care of all the leaves in my yard because I just haven't had time to do it.
That's awful.
That was on Friday, and I got back last night, and there's equally as many leaves in my yard as there were when I left.
It's going to happen, especially because it was so windy too.
Yeah, so that's exciting. Now I know what my week plans are going to be.
Fired up.
I just don't understand, like where I live. I don't know if it's the same where you live, but where I live, like when you rake your leaves, we used to be able to just rake them into the street and they would just come by and get them, right? Yeah. Then they changed the rule, and I don't know how long ago, but now you have to put it in like in either garbage cans that they can dump into the truck or into paper bags. that you have to buy from like Lowe's or Home
Honestly,
Depot.
I'm not sure what happens in ours because we don't have that many trees at this house, which is
Right.
nice. We have
So
we have one tree out front and then one out back. So there's hardly any leaves. Like the
just tell
grass
me,
cuts it and it's gone.
everybody uses the paper bags because the garbage cans, you'd have 300 garbage cans that you would have to keep.
You just can't fill
you
it.
have so many, right? So you get these paper bags, and it boggles my mind. The thought process here is we're going to kill a tree to make a bag
for
to
the
put
tree
dead
remnant
tree parts in it to recycle.
to make another
Why
bag.
to make why it doesn't even make sense. And the bags are not expensive. I think they're like $5 for like 7 of them or something. But like you see people's houses, they got 30 bags out there. Like it adds up fast. Just to put your leaves out to the curb doesn't make sense to me.
In Jim Thorpe, when we lived in the woods, it was awful. You couldn't do anything there, and the wind would blow, and it would just get stunk. It would just get stuck on my fence that had the chicken wire in it, and then just
that's how my it's everywhere. They're everywhere. So I actually had the entire way to Pennsylvania, I had a leaf stuck under my windshield wiper, and it made me mad so much, and I forgot to get it out. And then the entire way back, I had a leaf stuck under my windshield wiper, and it's still there. Like I still haven't gotten it off. So, anyways, but that's it. What else we got?
Nothing.
Industry's booming. Everybody's busy. It seems.
Yeah, man.
Things are crazy.
Life's back to
supply chain's getting better.
In what,
like for other things, not
like for
bananas.
Oh, there is a steady flow of bananas. It's like the only other thing that hasn't hit the old inflation. I think you can still get 96 bananas for $1.
It boggles my mind. They're grown like way far away, right? Like a tomato costs like $4 for one tomato, but you can buy 7 pounds of bananas for a nickel. I don't understand it. It boggles my mind. I wish I liked bananas more because they're like still single-handedly the cheapest thing you can buy at the grocery store. Like if you went to the grocery store and filled your entire cart with bananas, like took all the bananas that you had, it'd be like $7.80. It'd be ridiculous. Like I don't know. So bananas. So if anybody knows why bananas are so cheap, please enlighten me because
I don't really understand
the world. So natural gas poll of the week. You want to flash up your screen, or are we just gonna?
Yeah. Hang on. Wait, what are we on?
Gas facts.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Gas fact. I need Teddy. Gas fact. Gas fact.
And I don't sing, so unless it's in the shower or the car. So I was goofing around with this, and I was trying to. Somebody asked me the other day about like you hear it all the time about like we have these gas wells and these gas when people aren't drilling, but they could be drilling, right? So I was like, I wonder how many gas wells there are, producing wells there are. So for those of you that don't know, basically like everybody knows. I'm not going to explain what a gas well is. You can take a whole gas out of it. I mean, it's really that simple. So as of the year, this is the last time that I could find data, but so as of the year end in 2019, so the end of the year 2019, approximately blank wells were producing natural gas in the United States. Do you want multiple choice? Or you want to just throw a number out?
I think I just want to throw a number. 25,000.
I'll give you multiple choice.
Thanks.
198,542, 387,901, 491,205, or 258,659.
400,000.
491,020.
Wow, I guess 25,000.
Wow.
I thought that was
491,205 wells as of 2019 producing wells. That's just wells that are producing. So I don't know. Seemed like a lot to me.
That's crazy.
I feel like I'd run into one every now and again.
You do. You just don't even realize it. How did that? I don't know what happened. I had the DVD sticker. The old COVID boring thing.
You trying to tell us something? You have COVID now?
No. That was weird.
All right. So,
but think about it. You run into them all the time, Joe. You just don't even realize it. Every time you see one of those, one of the old oil well, that's why. I mean, and even in upstate New York, you still have them. You do. We don't see them.
We don't drill here in New York.
You did at one time though.
We're too pious.
That's a lot, man. Wow.
490. Yeah, that was in 2019. I'm trying to find numbers for like the last couple of years. I couldn't find anything. So if anybody has updated numbers, that'd be cool. But I can't imagine that it's probably that much, vastly.
That's a lot.
So before we move into the next thing in the interview, I want to touch base on something because I saw this news article, and we usually do news at the end, but Teddy's not here, so I'm gonna screw things up.
Go ahead, do it however you want.
So this news article starts, it's from Channel 10 in Providence, Rhode Island. It says natural gas shortage could impact winter energy supply. So I read it and I was like, oh, this is a pretty interesting article, blah, blah, blah. But then I got down to this part and I thought this was kind of ironic. Hold on, let me see if I can figure it out. Here we go. So, come on. Wait a minute, let me find it. Although 50, so this was all about the Rhode Island Energy is nervous, and there's some people that are nervous in New England that they don't have enough natural gas to actually keep people. If there's like a polar vortex or something, they're afraid that they're not going to have enough supply, right? So this whole article goes on, and pretty much in the very bottom it says, although 50% of the energy that's produced in New England today is produced by natural gas. Sorry, this is a quote. Although 50% of the energy that's produced in New England today is produced by natural gas, we're moving toward trying to eliminate dependency on that. So the entire article says that we may not have enough because, for several reasons. I think we can all figure out why. But they're really putting all their energy into solar and wind, and to not worry about it because we're not dependent. So
no pun intended that they're putting the energy in the solar wind.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like you're saying that you don't have enough to get through, but it's there. You just haven't.
Most of what we do doesn't make sense as far as energy.
It's just so silly. But they said it like it worked. Like that. The quote was from the chairman of the Rhode Island Public Utility Commission, Ronald Gurwatowski. He said that, and it's like
maybe he'll come on.
I don't think this is the program for him. I think that like it's funny that it's like, don't worry, we still get 50%, but we're working on
it
lower, but you might freeze also. Might also be a problem. I would post this article, but I don't want anybody else to read it because I felt like it was not.
But I don't want to promote it.
Yeah, I don't want to promote any of this. So WJAR in Providence, Rhode Island, if you really want to look up the jar. Yeah. So, anyways, that's all I got. Who we got this week?
Oh, we have Mr. Eben Wyman joining us this week. He's stop. He comes in. This is his second visit with us, and he's a lobbyist on Capitol Hill. This is a fun one. We talked to him for like an hour, and probably could have talked to him for 4, but he gives some little bit of predictions about the election tomorrow, a little bit of background information, and just kind of shooting the breeze about where our political state is right now, and kind of what's happening on Capitol Hill.
And I got hyper aggressive on my political views, so I apologize for that.
I don't think they were that aggressive.
I went a little bit overboard than I normally.
You didn't like go hacksaw ding Jim Duggan with the.
Let's just say that there's no question as where I stand. I think we've got that covered. But yeah, it was a great interview. We wanted to do it before the midterms, and get this out. So hopefully that's happening. We're recording this as quick as possible to get it out, and there's a few. He made some prognostications. Is that what they're called?
Wrote them down somewhere. I just don't know where.
So did I. So we'll see who turns out.
Probably know where yours are though.
I don't even remember what they are. I just assumed they were recorded. So I'll say it without further ado.
Eben Wyman.
Eben.
I guess I have to hit stop, huh? It's me.
Benny.
It's me.
Good to see ya. I still can't pronounce your name, so I'm not even going to try.
It doesn't matter, Joe. I'll answer either way.
I told you I'm going to call you Benny.
It's better than Evan.
Anyways, welcome back to the show. Happy to have you. I got the pleasure of actually meeting you in person in Savannah, Georgia, a couple weeks ago. And with the looming midterm elections and your position with your company and what you do, we thought it'd be interesting to get you on so we can see how good you are at your job.
That's great.
Political handicapper.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw Joe about this, I said, happy to do it, but please, don't raise the bar on me. Be kind. I mean, I am a lobbyist. I'm one of those dreaded lobbyists, but not necessarily the prognosticator in chief when it comes to.
Well, we're gonna find out because I'm right now.
In fact, I have a paper to write down your stuff. I know it's being recorded, but
all joking aside, a lot going on. I think you see it in the news. We do, anyways, or what we get to see. I don't know how accurate some of the things are. Seems like a lot of punches being thrown back and forth at the 11th hour to try to get some votes or get some opportunities. I just kind of wanted to touch base with you on regards to kind of like what you're seeing. What's the kind of the overtone down in DC? What's it like down there? Is everybody kind of freaking out, or is it just kind of status quo?
Yeah, it's status quo, unfortunately, and frankly, before I get started, you know what we're trying to do is get Capitol Hill to open up more so we can fly folks in. And I have to say, with you know, you talk to staffers on the Hill right now, and half of them will tell you it's still restriction. There's still restrictions on accessing Capitol Hill offices.
That's
because of
crazy.
Because of COVID?
Some will say COVID, and some would say January 6th because of security. And what I'm getting at is the recent and increasing attacks or threats against lawmakers is not going to do anything good in terms of opening up access. So I know that, you know, folks are ticked off on both sides, but if you want to get in there, we got to do something about, you know, the security risks. So what we're doing is trying to get things to open up. Now, when it comes to the midterms, there's a lot of things that are kind of the same that are apropos for midterm elections, than some things that are very, very different. I want to make it clear up front, guys, that unlike other lobbyists, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the result of my in-depth, meticulous analysis. I looked up some of the leading pollsters, and Charlie Cook is
Those guys wouldn't come on our show.
That's the guy. That's the guy. Well, they're afraid. I'm not afraid. But so
really
a lot
quick,
of this is from the Cook report, from Real Clear Politics, some of the other ones. But the lay of the land right now is historically, and this election is no different. There's an advantage to the party in the minority. So the Republican Party, which is, you know, minority in both the House and Senate, obviously we're not in the White House, historically score a lot better in the midterms because it often turns into a referendum on the new president, which is no different here. But just a little history here, you know, just to show you that this is kind of how things go. In '94, under the Clinton administration, you know, that first midterm in '94, the GOP gained 52 seats in the House and 8 in the Senate. In 2006, under Bush, Democratic gains were 30 seats in the House for that midterm, 6 seats in the Senate. Fast forward to 2010 under Obama, 63 House flips in the House, seats flipped in the House. Wow. In 2010, you remember that was the Tea Party year. So we had well over 100 members in the House, but a lot of them were you know, new Republicans. And then in 2018, 40 House seats flipped under President Trump's midterm in 2018.
So this is pretty standard.
But I have a question that maybe goes into a little bit more. I mean, all those years, and they sound not that far ago, right? 2004, 2010, 2000. But I don't think social media and anything has ever come into play more than it has, at least in the last 4 years or so. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm like, oh, maybe that history could be a little different just because of how people's opinions are swayed more than just a commercial on, you know, in between your favorite show. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I got to say, it's 2010, there was certainly social media influence for the Tea Party coming in. But, you know, Donald Trump changed the game when it came to Twitter, you know, and a lot of people, I'm one of them. I loved what he did. I didn't like the way he did some of it, didn't like the way, you know, some of that messages came across on Twitter. But a lot of the people who critiqued him about that are doing the same darn thing when it comes to, you know, speaking their mind over Twitter and looking at Twitter and other social media as a direct way to communicate, you know, with voters. So
I think it's really inappropriate.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Because I think because we've stuck in this kind of war now between misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it. Because at any given time, anybody that has an account can go on and say whatever they want. And I don't have a problem with that at all. What I do have a problem with is I think that there should be a higher standard for people that are in positions of power that have to follow maybe a different set of guidelines when posting on social media. Because you have to appreciate the gravity of your words to the populace. Joe Surratt tweeting out that I don't like Biden doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? But if somebody does that's got 15 million followers, that's been an elected official, and they're maybe spewing information that's not necessarily accurate, and that falls on both sides of the aisle. I don't want one group to say or the other. But what I've started to see, honestly, and I think it's crazy, and I could be completely off on this, but I don't think I am. Social media still has a very, very strong influence, but I honestly think it's dwindling. I don't think it's as impactful as it was maybe maybe 4 years ago, or maybe even 2 years ago, because people have become so disenchanted with what's accurate, what's not, what's true. Like, I think that the majority of smart people and people that are really
what I was just going to say is the problem is a lot of people aren't smart.
And a lot of those people don't vote. They have no problem getting,
or they do, and
but they don't. I mean, let's just look at the numbers for the presidential election. Let's look at numbers of just elections in general. We don't even get 50% turnout for people.
Especially midterms. That's exactly right. It's somewhere.
Right.
I think traditionally you're looking pretty good if you have 40-something% in a midterm
Right.
election. But to your point, Joe, I think that's right. I think the idea with the way Trump did it, he didn't want to go through the media filter. You know, he didn't want his message being diluted by or deleted.
I also have a very good question. I have a very good question. Do you think that's actually Donald Trump doing the tweeting? Because I watched a debate and he tweeted while he was talking. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't even make sense.
Well, if anyone could have done it, Donald Trump could have done it.
I think there's probably a whole slew of things that are written out that he says yes, no, yes, no, yes, no on.
And it just,
I think they're probably all like that. I mean, no offense, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and I might take a lot of crap for this, but I've seen some of Biden's tweets. He definitely didn't write them, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
For sure.
Oh, I write all of my own tweets. I don't have like somebody else, but I'm 100% sure he's
unless somebody steals your account and hacks you, then it's not you. If there's
Right.
anything inappropriate, it wasn't him.
Right.
No, I'm sure there was some help on social media. I will say though, and I think some of those 3 a.m. tweets were all Donald Trump.
I mean, potentially, but I think I think as the president, let's just go president. Like I obviously lean a little bit more Republican than I do liberal. I'm certainly not hardcore either one or the other, and I'm not voting strictly on party line. I never will. Yeah. But what I'm going to say about that is, like, just from the social media standpoint, like, I think you have to hold yourself at a higher position, like, as president. I think kind of joining the masses in that social media world is kind of, it doesn't make you look very prominent. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think Queen Elizabeth was ever going to tweet.
It sort of dumbs you down a little
right.
bit. It does.
And it opens you up for things. Now, your point is really good, though, about, why maybe he went that route, because maybe didn't feel like his message was being conveyed properly by the media. And we can certainly probably all agree that depending on which channel you turn on, the media has a completely different idea of what's going on in the country versus channel A versus channel B.
That's for sure.
So, I mean, I get that. And I don't mean to hijack it with the social media thing. I just think that most people right now,
I kind of did that. I just think it has such a big play.
But I just don't think, I think it still does. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to slowly start to become less impactful because people right now just don't really know what's real and what isn't. I don't, certainly. I mean, I hate when I see something and it enrages me because I'm so upset about it. And then I find out that's not true.
Yeah.
It's completely fabricated, or points were fabricated, or it's really hard to decipher. Like, I love when people say, well, you got to do your research.
Yeah.
Where?
Right. But, I mean,
and sometimes it's not even as deep as research. When I talk to young people and they're wondering, where do you get your news? I said, I get it from several sources, because you cannot watch MSNBC and get the truth. You can't watch Fox and get the truth.
Right.
You can't watch any of them. So you got to watch all of them and
read. Or none of them.
Maybe that's an idea for a new business. We'll take all of the news networks. We'll put them.
That's actually not a bad idea. If you ran a whole 3 different lines of what everybody was running.
Yeah. Trump's awesome. Trump's terrible.
And that's going on. You know what others are doing? They're actually looking at everything and coming out with trying to come out with objective news. In other words, just reporting. Leave your agenda.
The problem is you don't know.
Leave your opinions on the side and report on what's happening. Like that, right. More of that.
But most people think that's what CNN is doing, or that's what Fox is doing. Most people believe that. No, that's the problem. When you say, leave your opinions to the side, you don't know who's back that media company. You don't know what their goals and objectives are. I think it's almost impossible unless you are actually standalone, not connected to anybody, being able to try to put that narrative out. But you're not going to make any money that way. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, no, and what I'm saying is there are new, lesser known media outlets that are trying to return to that objectivity.
Like
whether or not they get there or anyone watches, who knows? But Joe, you're right. I mean, those folks that just get their red meat from Fox or their liberal red meat from MSNBC, it's still just red meat. And so if
Oh.
that's all that's out there, you have to eat all the red meat.
Listen, I have a perfect
Oh.
example for you. My grandfather, he just passed away this year. He was 90 years old. He was a liberal his entire life. And since I remember, the only reason he voted liberal or Democrat every single election, because the Republicans were going to take his Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's not true. But that's because he just kept getting fed that narrative. And that's literally why he voted for Democrat, liberal every single election, no matter what.
I almost think we went as a society from getting 5 to 6 different opinion or news sources to now you can pick up your phone and have 10,000 of anything you want to read. And it depends what search engine you even use, what your results are.
Because news became about entertainment. It didn't become about like accuracy.
Yeah. That's right. You know what's funny about that, Joe, is back when Bill O'Reilly was on and Ann Coulter was big, there was a 60 Minutes on this, and I couldn't believe how candid some of these leading pundits were. They said just what Joe just said, which is this is not about reporting news, it's about ratings.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have to make the news make it more entertaining so that people who are ticked off at the left can watch Fox and get their fix, and vice versa.
See, what you need is the problem is that it's all about money, right? So you want ratings, which equals money, which equals advertising, which equals money, all of those things. And you're going to have special interest groups regardless that are going to be engaged in that because they're going to want to profit off of it. There's really no way to have a clean, just unbiased news channel because somebody's going to want to profit off it. And what organization or what person is going to pay for an unbiased news channel? There's no reason for anybody to back you because you're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you said to Elon Musk, give me $1 billion and I'm going to open up eventually you wouldn't have any sponsors or advertisers because there would be no gain for them to be on your network. Yeah. It's kind of a weird dynamic where there's really no way out of it. We're just kind of stuck in this circle.
It's worse than weird. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's obscene and it flies in the face to I mean, I always say, Cronkite, Tim Russert, those guys are rolling over in their
Cronkite. I love Cronkite.
Right? Yeah. I mean, those guys had their opinions. I mean, Tim Russert, one of the best, probably the best meet the press guy in history.
But they weren't afraid to either ask the question.
Absolutely. And he was a full-on Democrat. He worked for Pat Moynihan, but he would come across and he would ask hard questions to the Democrats as hard as to the Republicans. And he'd have both sides, strong guests on both sides. He wouldn't get milquetoast, someone who's a yes man on some of these things. He would get, the right people on there and get to the bottom of the issue, whether or not he agreed with it or not. But we just don't have that.
We know we don't have that anymore. You get these softballs, and I saw Biden on Jimmy Kimmel not too long ago. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
It was horrible. It was like let's bring him on and prop him up and ask him the easiest questions to make him look as good as we can possibly make him. And it was so blatantly obvious. And I'm not just using Biden. They do it to everybody. Everybody does it. And I think, and I'm hopeful, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm hopeful that the majority of Americans will eventually, over time, start to realize what I think a lot of people have already realized, that media has basically created this kind of subculture where people aren't allowed to have differing opinions. And we've forgotten, even from a media perspective, we've forgotten that it's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to.
Money is made in division. Money is made in dividing things.
Absolutely. But I just think that there's like my neighbor that sits right next door to me has a Kathy Hochul sign in his yard. I wouldn't vote for Kathy Hochul. No offense if anybody was watching this. If you paid me $1 billion, there's no way she would ever get my vote. But he's a great guy.
Yeah,
he's talk all the time. We have no issue. Just because we politically are different doesn't mean we don't like each other. And the media actually has created this. I mean, you see it all the time. Fox is hammering on CNN. CNN's hammering on Fox.
They do.
They've created this reality of hatred that people now take, and they do with their neighbors, and there are people.
I was around a bunch of people the other night, and I said, "What we're so divided, and what's the difference then after 9/11?" I go, after 9/11, I remember everybody was.
We all felt like America.
Everybody. Yeah, we were all just Americans.
It's kind of the way I look at it, Chad, is like if you have brothers and sisters, you'll fight with your brothers and sisters, you'll kill them, you'll stab them, you'll do whatever. But as soon as somebody else attacks your brother and sister, it is on. You're defending them with everything that you are. Right. That's kind of what 9/11 was for America, I think.
That's not that long ago. That's the crazy part. It's only 20 years ago.
It feels like it was
I
5 minutes
know,
ago.
but man,
Right.
it's
So anyways, back to let's wait a minute. Let's get
Yeah,
back
go
on
ahead.
track here because I want to
Go
hear.
ahead.
I want to hear a little bit more from kind of the pulse and tone of DC because it's not something that the average American ever gets to really know. We only get to see what we hear from the media. So
Mhm.
I'll let you. We'll shut up and let you get back at it.
No problem. And so, you know, generally we're following historical trends when it comes to midterms. The expectations are big pickups for Republicans in the House. I do, before getting into that, you know, there's always a sense of dissatisfaction after the first couple of years of a presidency. This is why it becomes a referendum on the president. But right now, I'm reading that, you know, just a couple of days ago, not just the majority of voters out there are dissatisfied, but 80% of all voters are dissatisfied with the way the country's running. So that doesn't look well for the party.
How can you not be?
Well,
Yeah,
that's right.
no matter who you are.
Well, that's right. That's right. I look at the 80 dissatisfied, 21 are satisfied. I'd rather talk about the 21% who are.
Let's
You know what they are?
Brain.
You know what they are? They're rich.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're exactly right.
If I had money falling out of my pockets, all this inflation, the cost of gas, and everything else that we're dealing with, my 401k plummeting, all of those things that we care about.
But those rich guys are also seeing the tax increases coming their way. They can't be satisfied with it. So again, my question.
All relative, though.
And I think the ones that are satisfied are just loyal D's, or they don't know the difference. And I hate to put it that way, but
you're right. Definitely the other end of the spectrum.
I don't care if you're, you know, the leftist of the left. You know, I don't know how you can be satisfied with the way the country's going right now.
Scary.
So in looking at that, go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, I just wish people would be intellectually honest with themselves. Like, if it was a Republican and this was going on, I would be absolutely dissatisfied. Like, it's not because of who's in office; it's about how your experience is. We get one life on the planet, right? We get one, and every year that goes by, the last 2 or 3 almost were taken with COVID. Now we're dealing with a financial crisis where people are having a hard time feeding, heating, you know, taking care of their families. And years are dwindling off of people's lives, and they're still going, I'm gonna vote Democrat. To what end? To what end are you going to vote for something or someone that doesn't ever take your best interest into account? Yeah. I don't care what political party it is.
Joe, I got to tell you, there are so many people out there that vote because of the letter following their name, and they don't look at the issue.
I think a really unique thing would be let's do one election with we don't know what party they sit in.
Just read you have to read
the take the R&D off the tail end of their names on a ballot, and then you tell me who's gonna seriously.
I just get confused why we never have somebody that's in the middle. Like, I want to run in Ohio and go, hey guys, you have some really good ideas.
Because there's not enough backing.
No, I'll tell you why. Look, there were 15 years ago, you had blue dog Democrats. You had right. Well, those
that was even longer ago.
Truly independents, but I'm talking about the moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, right? 15 years ago, we had plenty of them, and you would go to them when you wanted some reasonable, look, we got the chairman on this, he or she's pretty partisan. Can you help us with that person? The problem is when you have wave elections, like the Tea Party election, like the 2018, you know, all those moderates get voted out with the party that loses their shirt. And so you're not just, you know, flipping the control, but you're losing a lot of those important centrists that we just don't have anymore. So if you, I use the the example of blue dog Democrats, and these are like the Southern Democrats. All they care about is the deficit, and they want to get the national debt down. Those guys went from about 80 or 90. I think there's maybe 20 of them now. So we just don't have the moderates anymore.
Why is that though? Seriously, I mean, like, what happened?
I'm telling you, because the conservative side of the Republicans and the really liberal side of the Democrats have taken over the messaging, and so the moderates are scared. They either toe the line of the extreme of that party, or they suffer getting voted out in a wave election. I mean, that's just
so then you lose your seat.
Right.
But don't you think that, and this is completely your opinion, but it's my belief that most Americans sit somewhere in the middle. We're not on a very left or very far side, right side of the political spectrum. I think we all sit roughly in the middle. And as Chad alluded to, there's going to be a point in time, probably not too far from now, where somebody that comes in that has that middle, you know, that middle viewpoint and really wants to be bipartisan, like is going to be very successful again. Like I think maybe that will flip once again, because I think the majority of Americans are getting extremely fed up with the far left and the far right.
I hope so. I hope that's true. But the problem is you've got decades of people increasingly getting more and more ticked off. So the people who are ticked off on the right tend to be more conservative right than moderate Republicans. Same side on same thing on the Democratic side.
Becoming more divided through it. The deeper we get, the far, because that's just
I don't know if we are. I just think it's who controls the messaging. Like, because
where's the messaging come from, though?
Because I honestly, in my heart of hearts, don't think that most Republicans hate Democrats, and I don't think that most Democrats hate Republicans.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
But I think it does. Because what you see is pure just like hatred coming from either side, and it's either my way is right and your way is wrong.
Yeah, but
There's
that's what you
middle ground anymore.
But Joe, going back to your point about the majority of I think you said the majority of Americans tend to be a little bit more moderate. I would agree with that, but the problem is they're the silent majority. They're not screaming from the rafters like the hard left and the hard right. They're the ones being vocal about this stuff, and those issues resonate with more conservative, more liberal folks in the constituency, in the electorate. And so those guys generally are the ones who give money to the parties, right? The ones who contribute greater, whether they're they're Hollywood liberals or they're crazy conservatives. The ones who really show up when it comes to screaming and getting ticked off and to giving money.
It boggles my mind that people, and I don't mean to be a jerk when I say this, and I'm going to pick on two people on each party, but I don't know how AOC ever got that job, and I don't know how Marjorie Taylor Greene ever got that job. Like, I just look at those people
where they are.
Yeah, but still, like, I mean, how can you watch or listen or see anything that gets put out? They're so damning for both of their parties that, like, if I was one in that party, I'd be like, you guys, we got to figure out a way to get rid of these people. Like, they're just too damning. They're too polarizing. They're too far.
But they're also clickbait.
But okay, but let's use AOC as an example. I mean, what did she run on? She's in inner city New York City, right? She's in low income areas, high population with minority populations. Not that matters, but let's face it, it does. And so if she goes in there and says, look, we're going to look at not only income inequality, we're going to look at energy policy, because energy policy is racist. They make sure they put pipelines in your area. They make sure there's not clean energy in your area. That's what they run on. And that resonates with that part of the population.
I get that. But once they get in and 8 years go by and they don't do anything.
Well, that's the problem, is they don't.
They're still, they just become this incumbent that stays forever.
But Joe, for the stuff that you're talking about, that might not be 8 years. It might be 30 years of that person doing nothing. But people in that seat, as long as that part of New York feels like AOC is representing him for whatever she's saying, they'll vote her back in. And I'm with you. I can't believe, but I'm pretty sure her numbers are going to be pretty big on being reelected every 2 years as long as she wants.
I have a question. I have a question for you. Somebody that is close to DC. Do you think there should be term limits?
I do. I think we talked about this a little bit last time. I think there are, but the problem is, once you get a lawmaker from, say, let's say you're in New York, right? So let's say upstate New York. I'm saying that because generally Republicans in New York tend to be from upstate, and you get someone
there's not a lot of downstate Republicans
or New York City Republicans. So, but you get someone who's representing business well, and they become, say, the ranking member or chair of a committee we care about. Voters are going to want that person in that spot for as long as possible, and if you get a good person, you don't want to see him or her go. That's
okay. But how about an age term limit?
Ooh, boy, that's tough, Joe. I mean, you're going to say you got to retire because someone's, chicken.
How much can Nancy Pelosi be? I mean, she's been in office she's 80 years old. Well, how old is she?
Listen, I don't know if I said this before, but when my grandfather was in his mid-70s, we took his car away, we put him in a smaller place. He couldn't make really good decisions for himself. And these people, like, most people know that. Like, when you're at the twilight of your career, you have to understand that everything becomes diminished. Physically, you become diminished. Energy-wise, you become diminished. Your mental capacity becomes diminished. All of those things become diminished. That's not me being mean to older generation. That's an absolute fact and truth. So I don't want, let me just ask, like, anybody who's watching this, think about this. Would you hire an 80-year-old woman to like run your company?
Be the president, CEO.
No, you wouldn't. Why? That's not being rude. That's being realistic. And there, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying the age limit should be 50, you know, because I'm close to it. But like, I think, you know, what's wrong with 75?
Chad, he's trying to retire me.
I'm trying to retire myself. I don't understand.
No, I can, but I don't think. First of all, you're getting big ageism trouble if you say that you turn 80. You know, it's time to start packing it in. But if you look at it now,
but you can set an age for when you can start something, but when you can't, and when you end it, you can't become president until you're what?
How many times can you flip flop your opinion for 50 years too? Like the things that some of these lawmakers said 30 years ago, or if they said it now, they'd be canceled in 10 seconds. And now they're on. It's just weird. It's
well, you're right. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Let me give an example. So if you look at let's have Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. Joe Biden's about to turn 80. Okay, some would argue that he's not all there sometimes, making a lot of people nervous.
I'm 45. I'm not there all the time.
Right, but okay, but Pelosi is in her 80s, and you can say what you want about her, but you might remember a guy named Tom DeLay, who was the majority whip in under Bush. And he was known as the Hammer because he would keep people in line when it came time to whip in a vote. And he would do that by being ruthless with committee spots. He said, look, if you're from farm country and you want to be on the agriculture committee, you're going to vote, you know, our way on this or else. Right. And he was very, very effective. You know who was just like that? Nancy Pelosi. She was awesome. She's just as ruthless and she's just as effective. And that had, you know, she's in her 80s. So you could make the argument, if you like what she's doing, she should keep doing it. And that's.
I get it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you know, ageism only exists one way. It doesn't exist the other way. Like, you couldn't be president at 29, but you could be at 85.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. I just know it's not going to go anywhere. You're not.
I know, but
Joe, I always, whenever I'm presenting and I get questions like this, I'm like, your problem is you're injecting way too much common sense into a political.
That's what we need, the common sense party.
Yeah, I mean, and that gets a laugh, but it's true. I mean, you have to think politically all the time when you're talking about this stuff. You can't think with common sense or, you know,
reason,
being practical or reasonable. You really can't. You have to be political.
And that's why I honestly, I think you said it before. We might have, it was you that said that it maybe seems screwed up, but it's still the best system going.
Yeah.
And I'm just having a harder and harder time believing that. I am because, you know, I'm not dumb, and I know other people. And Chad, for example, travels like to European countries and stuff. We do a really good job of pretending like we're some superior moral authority of the world when it's kind of just us that feel that way. And I feel like
that's true.
And I feel like maybe it's time to. And this is probably not going to be met with a lot of agreements, but a constitution was written a really long time ago, and a lot has changed in our country from a really long time ago. So maybe, not that I have any problem with the constitution, but maybe it's time to just like open it up and take a look at how practical and how much sense it currently makes.
The words changed and how the times changed, and
you know, I just struggle with, you know, all of this. We're still trying to figure out, in some instances, let's say with guns, for example, what the founding fathers meant over 200 some odd years ago. Like, why? Why are we trying to figure out what they meant?
No, gun control people say all the time, you know, that was written when the redcoats were at the door, you know.
Well, that's also what the government had.
Yeah.
In truth, they meant that we should all drive around tanks and have missiles.
I just think
grenade launchers.
I think it's become so much about money. Everything is just based on revenue, from the gun issue you just brought up to the medical industry, which is an absolute awful disaster of a thing, to, you know, everything, schooling, Common Core, because some guy was a really good salesman. Like, all those things are based on dollars, and that's what our country's become. Like the food industry, they just feed us crap. If you go to Europe and they feed you fresh food, every meal you have is fresh. There's no frozen food department in Europe. Like
What's Trojan?
Yeah, you know what I meant, jerk. But it's just crazy. It's just all
The
based
old
on somebody
Trojan-
paying someone else somewhere. It's wild.
But you're right, but that's what you get in a society based around how we were created.
True, absolutely.
I mean, you have the ability in our society to make as much money as humanly possible, and people will continue to try to attempt to do that because we've created a world where your worth is based on your bank account, and that's never changing. It's just
I do think on the guns, it's more than money. It is truly a fear that they're going to come take our guns, and some want to. Let's face it.
It'll never happen.
It'll never happen. It's never going to happen.
Nope.
I mean, if they were going to do significant gun control, whether you're for it or against it, something would have been done after Newtown, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Or
you have 20-something toddlers, and
but that was the first one that was really, 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 really.
Columbine was pretty bad too, though. Buddy.
Yeah, but the kindergartners.
My whole thing is that there's just too many guns out there now to be able to ever try to rule it.
You can't even get the illegal guns.
And I'm not pitching gun control.
No.
I'm just saying I'm agreeing with you that it won't happen.
No, but it's just like everything else. I'm 45 years old, and since I was a child, the hot button political
control. I remember my dad bringing home
was gun control and abortion.
Yeah.
45 years later, the primary talking points are gun control and abortion, which means one or two things to me. Number one, it's such a perplexing issue that cannot be figured out. Or number two, our government is so inept that they're unable to figure it out.
No,
So
you know what's
there's
funny?
really no other option.
And I'm gonna normally I out myself in terms of my age or whatever, but I'm gonna show you what a geek I am. Do you remember that show in the 90s called The West Wing?
Yeah, West Wing.
Okay. And it was about Democratic White House, Martin Sheen and all that. So I would watch it. If you go back and you watch some of those reruns, those issues they're talking about are the same ones on the TV. Like taxes is never going away, but like immigration, even the estate tax.
So that's why I have to keep asking, like, why do we continually vote for people just so they can churn the same thing up, turn it over, get nothing accomplished, move to the next election cycle, argue about it, get voted in because of it, churn it, and it's just the same. What's it? The definition of insanity, right?
Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But
you have people that are out protesting about abortions whose grandparents were out protesting about abortion.
But what you have to remember is, let's just look at the house. For every person that you think is so out there and you can't believe that they're out there pitching, about 720,000 people in their area voted for them because they agree with their positions on that. So the big problem is that we're divided on these issues as well. I mean,
why doesn't anybody in government stand up and go, hey, we've been working on this for 40, let's put this in perspective. You hire somebody to fix your bathroom, okay? And 30 years later, they're still fixing your bathroom.
They're still trying to pick out what toilet ring they're going to use.
Why doesn't anybody ever stand up and go, like, really, enough with this? We're never going to figure it out. We need to come to some type of resolution so we can move on.
There's nobody in the middle.
But what happens is, Chad, is we've created this funnel. In this funnel, we have all these problems, and they all funnel down to this little tiny group of people that need to figure it out. And now we have pieces of things that are stuck in the funnel. So nothing else is able to get rectified or figured out. And it keeps the dam just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because these 4 or 5 talking points that we're never going to figure out are stuck in the funnel, and we can't get past them.
But they follow polling on what's important, and they.
But if they just made a decision,
what's the first thing that a lawmaker wants to do on day one? How are they going to get reelected in 2 years? That's the first.
And I honestly, and I've said this 1,000 times, if you're in public office, I don't care if you're the town council or you're president of the United States, if you're not waking up every single day and saying to your constituents, how can I make them better? How can I make my constituents who voted for me better? You are failing. You are failing miserably. And if your only thing is to stay in office and stay in your position to protect your own job, you should not have that job. honestly, let's make it an unpaid position and see how many of these people walk away.
I don't know. They make most of their money out of stocks and the background of it. The money that they get paid their salary.
That's a whole different topic altogether. When people walk in and they got a pot to piss in, and then they walk out and they got $50 billion, something's completely wrong. Anyways, don't mean to hijack this. Eben, whatever the hell your name is, I never get it right. I never will.
Am I still here, Chad?
I'm just mad. I'm tired, man. I got 3 little girls that are growing up in the world. I don't know what it's going to look like for them.
I know. And Chad, and I don't want to be a broken record, but honest to God, you have to think of it. I know you don't like it, but you have to think of it politically. The lawmaker will wake up and say, okay, I'm going to do what I can for my constituents because I ran on this. They voted me because of this. So in some way, shape, or form, I do feel obligated to do what I campaigned on. That's what I hope.
Yeah, you hope you get, right?
Right. I mean, that's as best. I mean, it's a little utopian to say they're going to wake up and say, I'm going to do the right things for all the right reasons every day. And that's just, they're going to say, we want to do great things, but what do we have to do these great things? We have to get reelected. It's going to take more than 2 years to do.
What they have to do is get along.
That's true.
That's it. I mean, Joe, this goes back to your point before.
These are grown-ups.
You're not allowed to have differences of opinions. You certainly are allowed. It's just don't come into my camp with those differences of opinions.
These are grown-up adults that can't sit in a room together without insulting and defaming and defacing each other's like moral character. There's something fundamentally wrong with that because we teach my 8-year-old when she goes to class, she has to be nice to the people in her class, whether they're nice to her or not, right? That's what we teach our children. And then we grow up and we become the same people standing as adults, as leaders of a country, of a nation that have the moral responsibility for 380 million other people. And we can't even look at each other with the respect to give them the time and opportunity to have an opinion. There's something wrong with that.
If you keep it up, Joe, I'm going to start raising money for you because you should be running an upstate. Okay.
I would punch somebody in the mouth and it would end on day 3. Like that would be the problem. I'm not polished enough to be able to do it. But what I'm saying is why can't people just sometimes shut their mouth and open their ears and just be respectable enough to be able to hear somebody out?
Have a conversation.
We had a couple of years ago, Nancy Pelosi behind President Trump rip up his speech in an act of defiance. That is not good for America in any way, shape, or form. Not good at all. And the conversations and the rhetoric that gets pushed back and forth on both sides is not good for the American people. There's something fundamentally wrong with not being able to be an adult and be in the same room with somebody without having to call them names or tear down their moral, their character and attack them. There's something very wrong with that.
Hey, Joe, if you want a silver lining on that Trump, the Pelosi ripping up the Trump speech, this guy, Billy Long, a congressman from Missouri, who's an auctioneer. He's actually an auctioneer in the past and still does some. He picked up one of the pieces of that speech and he auctioned it off.
Come on.
Yeah, he did.
That's fantastic.
You get what I'm saying, though. I think we spend our lives telling kids how they should be good and they should be virtuous and they should be moral. And we always say, like, we have to make sure that the kids are protected and things like that. And as soon as people become adults, the gloves come off. Every single person is very, like, anybody in the world is like got this big, huge, compassionate, big heart for children, which I think is great and we all should. But when they turn 18, no one cares about them anymore. They just become another like person that exists in the world. Well, there's no love for our fellow human any longer, and we don't treat people how we would want ourselves to be treated. We just treat them how we want to treat other people. I don't know. Anyways, let's go to the prognostication part of the conversation. I'm sorry that we kind of got off in that, but I think it's important. I think it's important to know and have conversations with people that are in the know and be able to just tell you as common people, Chad and I, how we feel, and you be able to kind of respond to it. Because I really do appreciate your level of even keeledness and your patience. Because I know that there's probably times where you feel that way, but with your job and what you do, you have to kind of, as you said, think.
Did you let him prognosticate?
Sorry,
we only have like 5 minutes of time left, so I'd really like to get into.
And I'm out of water, so.
Where he could be embarrassed in the future. That's the part.
All right, go ahead, Chad. I'll let you ask the questions.
I don't have any questions.
Well, you're gonna now because you stopped me.
That's because you just kept talking about the same thing over and over again.
I was going to end
Let
with
me
a
go-
question.
Let me go on to a couple of things, guys.
No.
No, because it's in line with this stuff. If you talk about the key issues for this, right, and what people are running on, I was looking at an article and some data spreadsheet on where people are on what's important, what's very important, and how much do they currently approve of the current White House in handling these issues, right? And they have like 5 or 6 of them. Ones, the leading ones are inflation and crime. Right. So in inflation, 82% said it's very important and 30% said Biden's handling it well. On crime, 72, very important. 32% the Biden White House is handling it well. Now, fast forward down to climate change. We're hearing a lot about climate change, right? A lot of policies, a lot of recent laws have injected a lot of money and a lot of restrictions to address climate change. And that's moved up in importance, but it's still only at 49% consider it very important. And only 42% think that the Biden White House is handling that well. And that's been a pillar of that administration. So
Question for you.
Yeah.
Because you may or may not know this, but we certainly do not. Is that historically pretty normal? Like when you look at, because the way that I look at it is no matter who's in power, it's always going to be around those numbers. You're never going to get like 80% approval on anything, right? Like,
yeah, but if you have low inflation, I don't think you're going to see 80% of the electorate saying that's important, and they're going to on inflation. Where same with crime. I mean, if you're at a time when you're not having, folks going into a jewelry store in New York City and just
it's one of our big issues.
Pillaging,
it's also just by the state. By the state, we have a bail bond issue of how we're letting people out after they do anything.
But if those issues are not problematic right before an election, you're probably not going to see those numbers of folks saying that it's very
gotcha.
Important.
It's what's the hot topic, really.
Yeah.
It's what they can make the most hot topic.
So it was crime, inflation. Were there any more?
Climate change.
Yeah, there were a bunch. It was in order. It was inflation, crime, then jobs, unemployment, which was 68 important, very important. 43 said that they're handling it well. Infrastructure. This was interesting to me. 57 said very important, and only 43 said that Biden's handling it well, which to me is strange because it was under his watch that you had
passed the
IIJA that was. Not just 1.2 trillion in investments, 550 billion in new investments in infrastructure. So say what you want in Biden, but he did more for general infrastructure than his predecessors. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What about immigration? Is that on there?
Immigration. Where is immigration? I did see that. I think it was lower than the first few that I put in, but it's below climate change. And the interesting one was abortion, which should not be, at least yet, a legislative issue, but because of the Supreme Court decision over the summer, it's become a political issue. People who are super ticked off about that decision might show up and vote for the Democrat just because they're upset.
Right.
And that's 56% said that was important, and 31% said that Biden was handling it well.
So because this has gone on a long time and we're beating the horse, I will beat the horse complete. I will talk to you for 12 hours and we'll still be doing this.
It's good. I'll talk all day if you want.
Let me ask you,
viewers might not.
How many seats do you think Republicans are potentially going to pick up?
All right, in the House, we've got obviously all 435 are up. Right now, it's Democrats have 220 seats in the House. Republicans have 212. There's 3 vacancies. 5 seats, a net of 5 seats would shift to control the Republicans. A lot of folks are saying it's going to be a whole lot more than that. So Charlie Cook, let me try that again. Charlie Cook from the Cook Report. 86 House races are contested. 33 are now considered a toss-up. 15 of those are Democrat incumbents, 7 are Republican incumbents, and 11 are new or open seats from folks running for governor, moving on, retiring.
So what are you saying?
Passed away. So I'm saying that they'll get the 5 and they'll flip it. I don't know how many they'll get, but I think they'll get.
That's why I asked you how many.
All right, I'm going to say I'm going to be safe and say between 15 and 20 seats.
I'm going to say 35.
Look at you.
I have confidence, and I have nothing to gain or lose by saying 35, so it doesn't really matter.
This is going to go before the election, so you know the House, you're not going to edit this out.
Locked in. He's locked in. I
Lock
locked in.
lock in your number.
All right.
Hey, I just
So
go
look,
ahead.
regardless of the margins, they are saying that the House is, and I think the House will flip. It's never a foregone conclusion, but it's looking good for Republicans to retake the House. In the Senate, it's airtight. I mean, as of yesterday, I'm going to give you the numbers I have, but as of this morning, in Pennsylvania, Fetterman was up by 2, and now he's down by 1 as of
That guy can't win. If
2
he wins,
hours.
I've lost
Right.
all faith in their political system.
But you've got 35 seats that are up, 14 Democrats, 21 Republicans. But the toss-ups are what we're looking at right now in about 5 or 6 states. So you have toss-ups in, Pennsylvania, but also Georgia. You have Nevada, Wisconsin, even Arizona's tightened up now. It was a lean deep. Mark Kelly's in a little bit of trouble right now. North Carolina and New Hampshire. So, if we can get one net, because you got to remember, people talk about a 50-50 Senate. It's actually 48 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and 2 very different independents with Sanders and Manchin. Either of whom are up. So it really comes down to this 5 or 6 states. If we get one net gain, it will transfer the power. It's just getting there. I wouldn't put money on it, but I would say,
what's the likelihood?
My likelihood is a pickup of 2, a net gain of 2, and I think I'm hoping Georgia.
I'm gonna go 4.
You're gonna go 4. Okay, well, it's kind of consistent with your house call too.
I'm gonna go 4. I have a lot of faith this time around. I tell you what, we'll end here, but let's bring you back afterwards to just.
I think that'll be fun.
Only if I'm right.
Don't worry, you probably will be, or I will be, and I'll rub it in, or vice versa. It'll work out for a while.
Joe, I have, as Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations, and I was so wrong in 2016. Actually, I wasn't that wrong in 2016.
Roll the tape.
I thought that Hillary was probably going to win, and all my buddies in Red America said there's no way Trump will win. So I
said Trump was going to win. I said Trump all along. No matter what the poll said, I just felt the pulse of the nation was just different. So,
which is for sure.
So,
but happy
hey, buddy,
for sure.
Thank you for coming on our show once again. I think we might need to do the Wyman corner every now and again,
especially because you can't say his first name.
Hey, I can't. I hate your first name. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Hey,
your parents were jerks for doing that to you.
And I normally send this to my mom, and that's off the table.
I love you.
Hopefully, like everybody else.
I love you, Mrs. Wyman. I'm sorry, but the name is just so bad. It's just I can't say it. It's either I don't know.
You don't even know who you're dealing with.
Evan, thanks a lot, man. Thanks.
Hey, man, good seeing you. Thanks as always.
Thank you, Eben, for that amazing interview. I appreciate it. It was incredible. It was fun. Could have talked for another 3 hours, and I gave Joe no chance to even pause and have a drink of water in between of hitting at the end of record from the intro to start the outro.
They were wearing the same clothing. No, it's I just love talking to him.
You love politics.
I do.
In the background, you do.
I love politics, but I also hate politics.
Yeah.
Like I love the theory of politics, and I love being angry about politics, but I don't think I could ever be in politics because
even though everybody tells you should probably get in local politics.
I don't know if that's the place for me, but
maybe you should move first and then get in the local politics.
I don't know. I see what they drag people through with like their past and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody in upstate New York and where you live kind of knows you. I don't know. You might want to move to like South Carolina and then run.
No, like small town Mississippi. I might have a chance. But
people.
Yeah, 8 people. 6 of them I know. But I know I honestly I love talking to those guys that are down in DC. You got Stuart, you got Zach for county, you have Stuart Salters, you have obviously Mr. Wyman. I can't say this.
One of the things that he said that shocked me, and I wanted to dive in a little bit more, but we were talking about so many different things, was the fact that Capitol Hill's not open. That we still can't properly
COVID
do our own, I don't know what governing. I don't know what word am I looking for? Like lobbyists still can't get on the Hill. So you can't even bring people in to visit, which is just crazy. It seems almost like that's a farce too.
everything else in the United States is pretty much open for business. I don't really know of anything that you can't go do right now.
Right.
You can go to concerts, you can go to sporting events, you can do whatever you like. But it's very ironic that the one place that you would actually want to bring people so they could gather, get together, and discuss what's important to our country
Still
is
can't.
the one place that's absolutely not allowed to be. You're not allowed to be at because
I
of
think
COVID.
there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because they're all 80 years old.
I
I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't want to talk about vaccines and boosters and all that stuff. If it all worked, then none of this would be a problem. And I just think it's absolutely silly that we're waiting around. And watch the interview, or you did watch
Yeah, it was
the
awesome.
interview.
It was an incredible interview.
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole again because that turns into a 2-hour broadcast here, and that's not what I want to do. But other than that, I don't know. Anything else going on? I wish Teddy was here. He's kind of the bridge, but it's just you and me.
Nothing. Just trying to find parts for people, and it's it's pretty much
Parts is
what
parts.
my job's turned into. Is
Parts is parts. My grandmother used to say that when she was sick. She was like, she had like organ failure, and she'd always say, "Parts is parts." Parts is parts. Just made me think of that when you said that. I don't know. I think that's it. We'll let this kind
no reason.
Our interview was really long, so I don't want to dwell on that or dwell on this end of it. I'd make it too much longer.
I don't really want to talk anymore either.
Well, we try like our hardest to be able to like make these short, but just sometimes
it's almost impossible.
Yeah, we're just too interesting. And
yeah, that's
I will say, I will precurse this is the first time we've ever done this, but next week we're going to have on Mr. Adam Day from Northeast Gas Association. We never actually tell people who we're having on next, so
that's because we never know. Typically,
we know,
sort of.
We have an idea. It's going to be him or somebody else. That's all I got.
Hey, I want to get Emprick on.
Yeah.
I just about the kombucha and stuff. I think that would be cool. Just
come on.
I messaged him a while ago. He never answered me.
I want to bring anybody on that wants to talk to us. I feel like we've run out of. We've done what 106 or something of these. I feel like we've run out of people that are willing to talk to us.
I feel pretty much the same.
We gotta. We have a few coming up that I'm interested in bringing on.
If anybody has any suggestions on people that we should interview,
or if you want to come on.
Yeah, if you want to come on, we'll be more than glad.
Want to come see what you want to be part of the magic.
Woohoo!
I still don't know how to get a green screen up. 108 episodes.
That's because you had it up. It just was this big behind you.
I fell down. It was a whole thing.
I think the wall is too.
Screws me up. Do you know that that's the CFL logo right there? Does everybody know?
I do actually. Oddly enough. Can you please not do this?
I'm gonna give you a tour.
I'm gonna sneeze.
CFL
we've degraded to this. We gotta go. We definitely are leaving. Say adios. Can you? I gotta. I'm hitting end.
Please do it.
See you guys. Thanks. Like, subscribe, do it all.